Is coffee a miracle drink? That's what one new article is claiming, touting the many health benefits of the best-selling hot drink in the world. What do the studies really say, and what are the possible side effects? Getting into your cup of joe, all within the big picture of our Catholic faith. Today, on The Simple Truth, we consecrate everything to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the pure, strong, chaste heart of St. Joseph. I'm Jim Havens. It is Wholeness and Healing Monday, fighting to cultivate the health of the whole person, mind, body, and soul. With our co-host, my lovely wife, Becky Havens. She's a Catholic wife and mother with a passion and calling to educate people about the importance of caring for our bodies that the Lord has blessed us with by living a healthy lifestyle. She helps others to think outside the cultural norms and to be their own advocate while not falling into the many pressures of modern medicine. She's the author of Toxin Free in 12 Months, a 12-month guide to help you transition over to a toxin-free lifestyle. Also wrote a boycott list of over 600 pro-abortion companies. You can get them both for free. Learn more at her website, safehavensmama.com. Our topic today is coffee a miracle drink? Our quick disclaimer, we're not doctors, not scientists, just regular people looking to live well and raise our family. We believe in objective truth and in asking questions when things do not make sense. We're not giving medical advice, but we do want to offer a forum here today. We know a thing or two, but there's still a ton we don't know. We've got some personal experiences, as do you. We would love to hear from you as we go throughout the program. We're going to put the phone number out. We even have a special gift for a couple callers who might call in during the hour. So stay tuned for that phone number. We want to hear from you. We also put out a morning survey. We're not going to be able to get to every survey response. We'll do our best. Always best to call in if you want to make sure to get some input into the show here today, any comment or question. But we will get to as many of those survey results as we can. But Becky, let's get it started in a few words. This was the first question in the survey. In a few words, how would you describe your relationship with coffee?
Right. We talked about this a little bit, and this is a tricky one because it definitely depends on where I'm at, like what season I'm at and where my body's at. Right now, I said it was my helpmate, my friendly helpmate in the morning because I'm sleeping very little, and it seems to be quite a help for me right now. But I've definitely had times where it's been my enemy. It's not made me feel good and did not bring any type of support to my body. And so I would, take a break from it. So I feel like it's very personal what coffee is for people, and excited to kind of look more at that.
Yeah, and maybe we can adjust your description a little bit. Maybe your secondary helpmate. I think that's a title I'm supposed to be the prime owner of. But I don't know. We'll get back to that question. I'll share my answer in a bit. But first, whenever there's a discussion on coffee, I think of the 1940 classic film by Preston Sturges, Christmas in July. I'm not going to spoil the premise for you if you've never seen it, but it's a screwball comedy that centers on a slogan contest for a coffee company. Here's the main character, Jimmy, trying to convince his girlfriend, Betty, that he's got the winning slogan. Here it is.
Can't you just see it over there in lights? The guy swallows his coffee, and it says, if you don't sleep at night, it isn't the coffee, it's the bunk. You gotta admit, that's some slogan.
Uh-huh.
But do you get the point? You understand what it means?
Yes.
What do you mean, yes? It's clear as crystal. It isn't the coffee, it's the bunk. If you don't sleep at night, it isn't the coffee that keeps you awake, it's the bunk. The bunk when you don't sleep.
I know what it says. I've heard it 1,000 times. I just don't understand it.
Well, maybe you don't try to understand it.
Maybe I don't.
I should think a kid or two could understand that. This Viennese doctor in the Sunday paper says the old idea is just a superstition, that instead of keeping you awake, coffee makes you sleep. That's simple enough, isn't it? Coffee makes you sleep.
Doesn't make me sleep.
He's a Viennese doctor. If he says it makes
Coffee keeps you awake, Jimmy. It's a well-known fact. Why are you so pig-headed about it? I'm not just trying to contradict you.
I tell you, it's the new scientific theory. It's the basis of my slogan. People think coffee keeps them awake. Those kind of people are nervous wrecks and can't sleep anyway, so why blame it on the coffee? So I say, if you don't sleep at night, it isn't the coffee, it's the bunk. Do you get it?
All right, again, that's the classic film Christmas in July. Check it out if you never have. I think you can even watch the entire movie on YouTube. It's a funny one, and that clip we just heard or watched, if you're with us on video today, exemplifies that long-running debate around coffee and its effects. where it seems there's always some new study coming out saying it's great or it's terrible, and everyone has their own experience and opinion too. Well, right on cue, we do have a new article here from earlier this month with the headline, "Coffee, a Miracle Drink with Many Health Benefits, Experts Say." In the article, it begins by citing a review of peer-reviewed studies of the beverage. Stephen Safe, a distinguished professor of biochemistry and biophysics at Texas A&M, and his colleagues found that coffee consumption can help reduce a person's risk for certain types of cancers, as well as type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's disease, and dementia. Says that drinking coffee has also been shown to help people live longer, and says that I'm a big proponent and I drink a lot of it, adding that he consumes 5 or 6 double espressos every day. And then he describes coffee as a miracle drink, much like, quote, aspirin is a miracle drug. We'll get into the why behind this that the article lists out. But first, Becky, what are your thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, I think he might be taking it a little too far. That 6 cups of espresso is a lot. I can see 1 or 2, but 6, I don't know. Maybe that's just his way of really wanting it to be good because he doesn't want to give up his habit. But no, I don't know if that's healthy for most people or not. I know there's some good studies on the effects, and definitely type 2 diabetes is one of the bigger ones that helps lower the risks of that. But I would say in moderation, because there are some negative side effects of coffee, especially if you're run down or you're sleep deprived or you have high cortisol, just kind of need a rest. There are times when a lot of coffee is going to make you feel like junk. And then, as we'll talk about a little bit later, there's also the issue of what's in your coffee. Is it being sprayed with pesticides? Is it full of mold? And those effects a lot of times are what people feel when they feel like jittery and stuff.
Yeah, we got a lot of great stuff to get to today. And that was 6 double espressos that he's consuming every day.
Oh, okay.
But the article
That's
continues. Here's the listing of the benefits, which is rather impressive. He says that contrary to popular opinion, the overwhelming majority of research suggests that coffee consumption is linked with a number of key health benefits. What the research says, for example, is that a 2019 study found that coffee consumption lowered the risk for type 2 diabetes by 22%. In addition, people who consumed more than 60 cups of coffee per month or more than 2 a day were found to have a nearly 70% lower risk of liver cancer and nearly 50% lower risk for colon and breast cancers and a nearly 30% lower risk for thyroid cancer, according to a 2021 study. On top of the potential cancer benefits compared with non-drinkers, coffee drinkers have an up to 30% lower risk of developing Parkinson's disease, according to a study in 2002. A diet that included coffee was found to reduce the risk for certain neurologic diseases, including dementia. Although the reasons for this are unclear, research suggests that the caffeine in coffee has a neuroprotective effect and helps the brain produce dopaminergic neurons, or brain cells involved in movement and other functions. I won't pretend to understand what all that means, but the article goes on to say many current treatments for Parkinson's disease, for example, are designed to boost production of these neurons. It says for many years, coffee has been seen as an unhealthy drink, but over time, the research really supports more benefits than adverse effects. More research is needed to understand why coffee is so beneficial, but suggested that the polyphenols found naturally in coffee, like other plant-based products, most likely have antioxidant effects that can help reduce inflammation, a common cause of disease. Caffeine also increases metabolism of fats in the body, which may add to the drink's health benefits. In addition, coffee can also lead to improved mood and a reduced risk for depression. The article does get into the potential side effects as well, but so far the benefits here do seem pretty great. Becky, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive. It certainly makes a good case, and so I feel like if you handle coffee well and you feel like you have a good groove and keep it up. I mean, it makes sense with the cancers. It certainly helps clean you out. It can really clean out your liver. And I think that's important because your liver is where all the toxins go. So you want to be able to flush that out and keep it clean. And I can see how coffee would really help that. But yeah, it's so interesting because there are, we'll get into this as well, but there are some negative effects of coffee. And I think it just depends on, again, what you're personally dealing with and, where your body's at. But yeah, I think, when it's taken black, particularly, it's probably when it's going to be most beneficial.
Right. Yeah. And I think that distinction is important that you mention in the top there, that there is the objective reality of coffee and its effects. Then there's the subjective reality of one's unique experience with coffee. People have different sensitivities, different unique responses. So even if coffee is generally on net quite good, it doesn't mean that it's going to be on net good for every single person. Know thyself, right? It's important to know your own body and how it responds to coffee. So we'll have more on this as we go. When we get back, I'm going to share a little bit of my own experience with coffee, and then we'll get Becky's thoughts on that and much more as we go. Some really important aspects to this that are rarely talked about. And in the big picture of our Catholic faith, obviously, we want to be prudent and reasonable. We want to be temperate, having things in right order, not having too much of even a good thing. So all of that is in play. We do also have some coffee to give away, 7 weeks coffee. This is some great stuff. We'll tell you about it and put out the phone number when we come back as well. So hang on. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here talking about coffee today and this new article that is out touting it as a miracle drink. So is it a miracle drink? Certainly that's a bit of hyperbole, but we went over a lot of the benefits outlined in that article based on various scientific studies. And sure is impressive, but it also does list out some of the drawbacks as well. We'll get into that as we go, but also want to hear your experience of coffee. What is your personal experience of it? People are going to respond to coffee in different ways. And also, if you want to call in and share with us anything about coffee, your experience with it, any comments, any questions you might have on this topic, 1-877-511-5483. The first two callers today will receive this great gift. We're going to give you I guess 12 ounces of this 7 weeks coffee. I'm holding the Faith Blend Dark Roast with the unground beans, and I think Becky, you've got the Faith Blend Dark Roast, but I think the ground version. And so we can give these two things away. But first, Becky, can you share a little bit with us about 7 weeks coffee? This is a great company, and this is the coffee I drink, and it really is good, solid coffee. Can you share more with us?
Sure. So I remember looking at different coffee brands when I was struggling with different symptoms of coffee and wanted to make sure that we were drinking coffee that was not full of pesticides and molds. And so I started using a coffee called Purity Coffee. And I remember, I think I tagged them in one of the posts I did about being like a neutral company. And they responded back publicly that, we're not neutral on abortion. We're pro-abortion and we're proud of it, or something like that. It was very direct and it was very clear. And I said, okay, well, good to know. So cancel that subscription. And I need to find a new coffee that is organic and mold free, because the issue with mold is that it can really mess up your system and you get, unwanted side effects. And most coffees do have mold in the beans. And so I found 7 weeks coffee and I loved them right away because they are an organization that will give 10% of all sales to a pro-life organization. So they support over 850 pro-life organizations, and the Men's March is one of those. And so if you order through the link that is on the Men's March website, 10% of that will go right to the Men's March, which is awesome. They are organic. They support local farmers around the world. They roast fresh weekly, which is very important. You normally want to grind your own beans, but it's if it's not possible, that's fine too. And then they're mold free, which is really important. So we've been using them for probably a year or so, and we've been really happy with them. and they're so good. They offer, free coffee for us to give away to any of our listeners. So we have 2 bags here that we're excited to give away to 2 callers today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is good stuff. Highly recommended. Again, if you want to go purchase your own, go to themensmarch.com, click on the link for 7 Weeks Coffee on the homepage. And then when you purchase from that link, that way we're going to get 10% back to support the Men's March. We appreciate that. You're going to get some great coffee from a great pro-life company as well. But if you want to call in today, again, first 2 callers, any comment, question you have, we'll give you some coffee as well. 7 Weeks Coffee. You can try it out and see what you think. 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. So my experience with coffee, after lots of experience with coffee through my 46 years or so. I guess I didn't start drinking coffee probably till, a teenager of some kind. So maybe about 30 years or so. And a lot of trial and error over those years. And, really, I've landed on a morning ritual that works terrific for me, which is 2 cups of coffee. Fairly quickly after I wake up quite early. And I like to heat up the water on the stove to a certain temperature. I've got a little thing that tells me what the temperature is and take it off when the marker gets in the red and all this. And then I do the pour over some grounds into a metal strainer, that then the coffee goes down into the glass carafe. It's a whole thing. I used to have even a hand crank grinder where I'd put the beans in this hand crank grinder every morning and I'd ground them up fresh. But that broke. I think I just overused it or something. And then, so now I just batch it, right? We just grind it all at once. So it's still relatively fresh being ground up, maybe at most maybe a couple of weeks or so, since it was ground and I'm using it. So nice and fresh. And, it takes a few more minutes. It's a pretty simple process. It does take a little bit longer. But I think it's worth it. The coffee tastes better than running it through all the plastic of the regular coffee maker. And I drink it black, very much enjoy the taste, the smell, the whole thing. So back to the question, in a few words, how would you describe your relationship with coffee? For me, it's my fine friend every morning. And I would also add perhaps it's proof of God's love for me. I'm going to throw that in there as well. But Becky, your thoughts and especially, I guess, on my avoiding of the toxins in the plastic of the coffee maker, besides taste, do you think that matters much in terms of health impact?
I don't know. I hear a lot of people saying that their coffee tastes a lot better when it's not in the coffee machine and when they do the pour over. And it doesn't take a ton more time. It's a little bit, if you're making coffee for a bunch of people, it's not ideal. A coffee maker is going to be better for that. But just for every day in the morning, I know you're into a routine already and you're certainly avoiding the toxins. Because look, when you put, hot water in plastic and it gets very hot in order to, fully, get all the coffee out of the coffee grounds, it's gonna come into contact with the plastic. And a lot of times when plastic gets heated, the chemicals inside of it get released and it goes right into the coffee. And so I'm not trying to say this to scare you. I feel like a lot of times people hear that and, I got to go out and buy a new coffee maker. It's totally up to you. We still do it from time to time and you do your best with all of that. But the pour over idea is really nice. It just avoids any junk. It goes into a nice glass carafe, I guess is what it would be. And then it's probably gives you 2 cups of coffee. I would say 2.5. Jim drinks really big mugs of coffee. So I know you say 2 cups every morning, but I feel like not for an average person, it's possibly 4 cups, maybe 3 to 4 cups. And I'm so glad for you. I know that coffee is a great thing for many people and it becomes part of your routine. And, as long as it's not creating any health issues, and it seems to be the majority of the studies that come out are in favor of coffee and the good health effects that it does. And as long as it's organic and clean and mold free, I think it's great. I cannot enjoy coffee the same way Jim does. It's more of a small cup of coffee for me and I'm good. I've always been somebody who just has more energy, a faster metabolism. And so I didn't need coffee in the morning to keep me going. Usually I would have it because I didn't get enough sleep or I would get the junky ones from the store that had all the sugar in it and just tasted good. But now that I'm a little bit older and my metabolism is not as fast, I do tend to get a little bit more tired. And so I can handle, a small cup of coffee a day and enjoy that. I like the espresso. I think actually the espresso does not have the same effects as like a cup of coffee does for me. And so I kind of like to go that route. The espresso machines are like so expensive. So it's kind of out of the question for the majority of people to actually make your own homemade espresso. But I know you can, waste all your money at the coffee shop, and that sometimes works for people.
Yeah, very good. Well, you found me out and you did me in on it's true. My cups are a bit larger, and it does equal out to more like 4 cups. So, that's all true. So we'll add that to the calculus as well. But we're going to get into that as far as how much coffee you're drinking and how much does it matter? Again, this is going to vary from different people, but there's also some objective things that can be stated about it as we get into the data. But let's go to the phone lines here. We got, I think a couple callers on the line. We've got Carol in Rochester, New York. Thanks for calling in today, Carol. You're a winner. We got some free coffee for you here from 7 Weeks Coffee. But what would you like to share with us? Anything that you would like to bring to the table today?
Coffee is good for you, but it's also bad for you if you drink too much of it. Years ago, working at a trick shift job, I'd drink 6 cups of coffee a day, and I got heart palpitations. So my doctor says 1 cup a day, So I went down to 1.5 cups a day, and I'm fine. No palpitations in 10 years.
Very
nice.
You
gotta be careful.
Yeah, that makes sense. You got to pay attention to what the symptoms of your body are showing you and adjust accordingly. Got some advice from the doctor there. That's good. And Carol, before we let you go today, what kind would you like? Would you like the ground coffee or would you like the beans?
Ground, please. I haven't got a grinder.
Okay, great. We're going to send you that ground coffee from 7 Weeks Coffee. It's the Faith Blend Dark Roast. So that's coming your way. And thank you for calling in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
All right, you too. God bless you, Carol. We have another caller on the line, and that is Melissa in Rochester, New York. So 2 from Rochester. Melissa, thanks for calling in today. Again, we've got some 7 Weeks Coffee for you. We've got the beans for you, the whole beans, so that's coming your way. But your thoughts on this, what would you like to add to the discussion today?
Well, I love coffee, and about 5 years ago, I had to give it up because I just had multiple. I tried one coffee, then another, and then they would last a while, but then it came to a point where I couldn't drink any anymore. So I'm finding that this is interesting I thought I was doing a good job picking out an organic, brand, but it turns out that I just haven't found anything. And so I'm excited to try something. I haven't tried anything in 5 years, and I just feel like there's a part of me that is missing since I haven't had coffee in 5 years. This life is not the same without coffee. And I even, kind of gave it to God, and I just said, you know what, maybe this is just something you don't want me to have, because I believe if I tried so hard to find something. I even tried cold brewing and so many different brands, and I'm just like, this is not working out. So I'm hopeful. I don't know what else I could do to make things better for myself, but if you have any other suggestions, but I'm excited to try something that is working for your family.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome, Melissa. Yeah. Thanks for calling in and sharing that with us. And I would highly recommend 7 Weeks Coffee. I think my experience of it has been just terrific. The only thing I would say is that when you're switching from one kind of coffee to another, sometimes it takes a little bit to adjust to the taste. Even if it's great coffee and tastes great, you're just kind of, if you're used to something, then it has to adjust a little bit. But it sounds like you haven't had coffee in a while, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. And hope it goes great for you. We're going to get that coffee off to you. And Becky, we'll ask you when we come back from the break, Becky, about anything you want to share with either of our callers today, Carol or Melissa. And I do want to invite everybody else, anybody listening, watching today, if you want to call in. We're out of the free 7 weeks coffee. We have no more to give away, but we would love to hear from you. If you'd like to add anything to the discussion today, give us a call, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. And you can always go and purchase your own 7 weeks coffee. Again, highly suggest going to themensmarch.com, clicking on the link there to it from the homepage. That way 10% of that purchase comes back to us to support the Men's March and the good pro-life work we do. But we're going to be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here talking about coffee today. We've gone through a lot of the benefits. We're going to get to some of the side effects as well, and then land with some helpful stuff to help us land in a nice balanced place, I think, at the end and round this all out. But we had a couple great callers call in that last segment, Carol and Melissa. Again, thanks for calling in. We'd love to hear from you out there. And Becky, any thoughts on either of the calls?
Yeah, so Carol, I think a lot of people experience that. I think women are kind of more prone to issues like that. I've had heart palpitations, and they're not fun. And so I can understand why, drinking six cups of coffee, I would be like, going a little bit cuckoo at that point. And so, I've definitely heard of other people who have had bad experiences with that much coffee. And it makes sense, especially for women. We have to really be careful of that with our hormones, and we just have more of a more delicate system than I would say men do. And then Melissa, I completely can relate to that. I've had times where I haven't had coffee for years. I just gave it up because it just didn't make me feel good. And we were probably buying like cheap stuff from the grocery store, and I could just tell, like, after a cup I would just feel yucky. It would make me feel like irritable, or my heart would race, and just feel gross, and kind of wonder, like, this is not serving me at all. There's no point. But I agree, it's actually a great blessing when you can have it, and when it doesn't make you feel bad, because it's such a nice treat that God has given us. So I get it. It's important to find a good brand, and also just we have to make sure, especially as women, to really make sure that our bodies are functioning properly in order to add in something like coffee that is a stimulant. And so if you're, say you're pregnant or nursing, it's probably best to withhold coffee for the time. I know there's some studies that say that it can be a little bit more detrimental in those situations. And if you're trying to conceive, there's some studies on that as well to kind of hold back on it. So it's not always going to be 100% positive results every time you're drinking coffee, especially for women. And so that makes sense. And I think it's good to just go slow with it. Just have a little cup. That's kind of all I can do. And when I drink more, I feel bad. No matter if it's a clean coffee, mold-free, it doesn't matter. I just think my system just doesn't need it. And so I just need to kind of pay attention to that and do what's best for me.
Yeah, prudence on this and temperance on this, and then enjoy the great fruits here that God has given us in this gift of coffee. If you are a coffee drinker, not everybody is. Not everybody does enjoy coffee. That's okay too. In fact, we asked our viewers and listeners a few questions here on the survey. These are the questions and some of the answers that we have gotten. So in a few words, how would you describe your relationship with coffee? One person says, like it, love it. Another person says, a daily desire. Another says, I love it, have to have it every morning. Coffee gives me energy, helps with my low blood pressure, and I love the taste. Another says, don't drink any. In fact, that's Gabriel in Carrollton, Texas, says he doesn't drink any. And again, yeah, many non-coffee drinkers are out there. It's not for everyone. We also asked, what are your coffee habits, if any? One person said, I'm a morning coffee drinker, 2 cups of coffee in the morning. That's Blanca in Edinburgh, Texas. Thanks for letting us know. I'm right there with you. Well, I guess technically it is 2 cups. It is. In fact, if I got a big enough mug, maybe I could make it 1 cup. And I think I could make that work. If you just get a large enough mug, then you can pour as much coffee as you want in and still call it 1 cup technically, if you want to go that route. Although then it gets kind of cool by the time you get to the end of it. I think I have it down to a science for me personally in the way that I go about it, where I pour just enough in where even at the end, it's not getting cold yet. And then you add a little bit more and, just perfect amount. So everybody kind of has their ways of doing this. Another says that, they like 1 to 2 cups in the AM. Another says every morning with my prayers. That's a great way to do it. And many people said none. They don't drink any coffee. And then have you noticed any health benefits from coffee? Yes, curbs hunger and helps with regularity. I agree with both of those there. Another says, yes, I have low blood pressure and coffee helps. Another says coffee makes me happy. That's Katerina in Newton, Mass. Agree with that one. And then another says everything has side effects, and that's mostly true. We're going to get into that, the side effects of coffee consumption in just a minute. Have you experienced any negatives from your coffee consumption? One says afternoon coffee causes stomach issues. Another says I did not, but sometimes people complain about acid. Another says, I drink coffee for pleasure, but some people drink so much that they have heart skipping, everything with moderation. Another said they experience poor sleep, anxiety. Coffee is heavily sprayed with pesticides. Coffee causes increased cortisol, stress. So those were some of the responses that we got. Becky, anything there that you would like to speak to?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to kind of be a little bit of each. And so it just kind of shows you that, it's very individual. And I would say just do what's best for you. That's kind of how I am. I feel like coffee is a gift. It does make you happy. And to see that there's like positive things that go along with it, I think that's great. But yeah, I'm on the other side where I've had bad experiences with coffee and I can't drink it all the time, and that's okay. I move on from that.
Yeah, and I think some of this helps to explain some of it. This article is pretty comprehensive. So back to this article on coffee as a, quote, miracle drink with many health benefits. It lists these potential side effects. It says caffeine doesn't necessarily lead to worsening anxiety or increase a person's risk for heart disease, including irregular heartbeat and high blood pressure, contrary to the image of the person who is stressed out and drinking a lot of coffee. But an analysis of data from 32 studies published in 2023 found no significant association between coffee consumption and heart disease. So these are still into the benefits, even though it's supposed to be the side effects here. But now it gets into it. It says that said, drinking too much coffee can lead to heart palpitations, just like Carol called in and told us about, and insomnia or trouble sleeping. And it also says that coffee can worsen symptoms such as excessive urination, particularly in older men with enlarged prostate glands. It also says some coffee drinkers may experience acid reflux or heartburn, and the beverage may also lower the body's ability to absorb key minerals like calcium and iron, which are important for bone health. Also says coffee has been linked with difficulty becoming pregnant and an increased risk of miscarriage among women who drank more than 2 cups per day. And this Dr. Donald Hensrud, a specialist in general medicine and an associate professor of preventative medicine and nutrition at the Mayo Clinic College of Medicine, says, I divide coffee into health effects and side effects, and the health effects are really significant, while the side effects are relatively minor, except for pregnant women. So that's interesting. And also how you take it matters. It says that indeed the oft-heard limit of 2 cups per day only applies to women who are pregnant or trying to become pregnant. Otherwise, there's no hard and fast rule for how much coffee to drink to maximize these health benefits. However, how a person takes it matters. In other words, the less milk, cream, and sugar and other add-ons, the better. For this reason, many of the coffee drinks sold at chain retailers don't convey the same health benefits as simple black coffee. Research suggests that some people may be genetically predisposed to being able to metabolize caffeine more quickly. This means they are less likely to experience side effects like difficulty sleeping and can consume more. While cutting back on caffeinated coffee when experiencing side effects can cause withdrawal symptoms, such as headaches, the chemical is not considered addictive. Dr. Hensrud said, I tell people to go by side effects when they're deciding how much coffee to drink. If you're not having side effects, then there's no reason to consume less. So interesting thoughts here in this article. Becky, what are your thoughts as you hear it?
Yeah, there's a lot in there that you shared, so that's really good information. I would say, just touching quickly on the pregnancy part, women who are pregnant, a lot of that has to do with coffee can, increase a person's blood pressure and your heart rate. So those are two things that women who are pregnant want to avoid. And so if it's like having those type of effects, it's probably best to avoid that. It's just best to keep that out of the picture until, baby's out. And even breastfeeding, it can have effects. Everything in your milk can go to the baby. So you want to really be careful with that and see if it's the best fit for you. But yeah, there are studies saying that women should have less than 2 cups a day, basically 1.5 cups of coffee, because there is research suggesting that moderate caffeine consumption or high caffeine consumption can cause miscarriage or preterm birth, which is scary. I had not known that for years. And I think when we learned that, maybe 8 years ago, I think I stopped drinking coffee. So maybe my last few pregnancies, I kind of did that, but I didn't do it with the other ones because who would know? I just kind of would go by how I would feel. But yeah, there's a lot of issues that people can have. A lot of times it can be, so you name the minerals, which was interesting. It does have high amounts of phytic acid, which will actually not allow your body to absorb certain minerals. And so phytic acid is also high in different grains as well. And that's why they say, sourdough your bread or sprout your bread is better because it helps your body absorb those minerals. So if I would say, eat, the best way to drink coffee from everything I've learned, especially for women, is to eat a meal high in protein in the morning, and then maybe around 10 o'clock, have your cup of coffee. And it's not with the meal because you don't want to take away any of those minerals, especially the iron. Women tend to be lower in iron than men. And so have it at 10 o'clock, a little bit later, not first thing in the morning. It can have bad effects first thing in the morning for women, especially with, higher stress or higher cortisol levels. But a good healthy meal before really can help that. And I don't know, you named so many other things. I can't remember what else to say. I have a whole ton of things, negative side effects, but I don't know if I should go through those at this point or not.
Sure,
or if you want to
go for it.
So something that I experienced personally was cystic breasts. And so it's a disease called fibrocystic breast syndrome or something like that. And so that was a new thing for me as I was getting into my 40s. And so I, asked my doctor, and I kind of looked online and did some research and realized that although coffee is not a reason that somebody would get this disease, but it is something that contributes to a woman having that. So if any woman is struggling with cysts in their breasts, and it can cysts anywhere really, but especially in the breasts, caffeine actually makes it worse. And so I did give up coffee for probably 5 months when I was having that, and it did help. And I've seen doctors say, oh, you want to still drink coffee? Okay, we'll just drain the cyst and you can, then you can still enjoy your coffee. But the problem with that is it's kind of a dangerous thing to do in general. Any needle in your breast is probably not what you want. And then it also, a lot of times they come back. So that was kind of interesting that can have such an effect there. And it really is because caffeine can cause hormone level changes. And so many women, especially if they're struggling with hormone balance, they would want to back away from that or just have a little less. And so it actually said the study that I'm referencing was women who consumed, they go on milligrams. So 31 to 250 milligrams of caffeine per day had a 1.5-fold increase risk of developing fibrocystic breast disease, while those who consume more than 500 milligrams per day had a 2.3-fold increased risk. So that's pretty high. I would definitely say if you're struggling with that, back off of the coffee, just to know that can make symptoms worse, I think is a good reason to kind of really look at, each individual situation and see if that's, drinking coffee is right for you in that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of great stuff in there. If you have something you'd like to add to this discussion on coffee today, give us a call, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. And I am seeing other vitamins and minerals affected by coffee here. So we talked about calcium, iron, vitamin B12, some evidence suggesting that excessive coffee consumption might reduce the absorption of vitamin B12. but generally minor, it seems to be. There is a little bit of fiber in coffee as well. That's good to know. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here talking about coffee. Today we've gone through a big list of pros and cons. We'll see what stirs up here in this final segment. One last thing I think it might be helpful for me to share, and that is not just the coffee routine in the morning, but how that actually plays a role in the overall morning. And so for me, it's getting up real early, and then I drink a big cup of water. So again, my glass for the water is quite large. I drink a lot of water, kind of get the hydration going, and then I'm into making the coffee. Then I have the coffee while I'm doing some work in the early morning. And then after that, it really does work as a sort of appetite suppressor as well. I don't really eat anything normally during that time unless I really feel a sense that I ought to for whatever reason. But then it's waking up the boys still quite early, and then we're into our morning workout, whether that's running or weight training, depending on what day it is. On Sundays, we take that day off, day of rest, as you know. And but the other days, we're working out. And that coffee, there's still a sense of just, a nice stimulation from that coffee, a little bit of a stimulation from it, and not eating much, if anything, to that point. I like to have not eaten by that point when I go into that workout. And then get that workout done with the guys, and we've got the post workout routine that we do. Then we're into morning prayer with the entire family, and then after that, it's time for breakfast. Eat a little bit of a high protein breakfast, and at that point, it's about 8 a.m. and we're into the rest of the day. But it's part of really getting a lot accomplished very early on, and just stacking those things before really the rest of the day even gets started. So to me, that's been a big thing, is like, how do you really try to perfect the morning routine? That's something I've been trying to work on optimizing over many, many years, and still fiddle with it, and it depends on the seasons and all of that. But for me personally, coffee's a part of that, and it's a piece of the puzzle that is helpful. Becky, your thoughts? Anything else that you'd want to share with us here in this final segment today?
Yeah, I kind of just plug into whatever the morning routine is at the time, and you do a good job with setting everybody up. And I thought that was interesting about the gene and how people process coffees, because I look at your family, and I know your grandma and your dad and your sister and your brother, like, they can drink coffee like nobody. I mean, it doesn't matter what time of day, it doesn't matter what time of night. They can just whip up a nice cup of coffee at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, really? You're drinking coffee? That's incredible. I would be up all night. And they're like, oh yeah, it'll put me to sleep. And it does. And so or my family, we're a little bit more sensitive to it. And we don't overdo it, because it's like, I think it's just so interesting that is so true. So I'm kind of sad I don't really have that gene, because I would like to enjoy it, but I guess God has everybody in their own spot for a reason. And so I also just want to kind of go through and, how to, enjoy a good cup of coffee. Like what should you be looking for to get the best type of coffee, and what's best. And so I just want to kind of share this really quick. So coffee is actually the most heavily chemically sprayed crop in the world, which is interesting. So 95% of the world's coffee is grown for mass production is containing mold, mycotoxins, and pesticides. So mycotoxins are toxic compounds produced by certain types of mold. And so after some research, it says that nearly 50% of processed beans are infested with mold toxins. So that's kind of a big deal, especially if you're somebody who's sensitive to mold, who's had mold issues in the past. It's going to make things a lot worse. So first things first, select an organic coffee. Drink your coffee after a protein-rich meal. That will help. Choose coffee that has been made by the wet processing. There's different processors. I think there's like the Swiss process as well. That's a good one. It's the way that they deal with the beans in order to make them, have the least amount of mold and process the right way, so they're not, adding chemicals into them. this was interesting, pick Arabica, is that how you say it? Arabica beans over Robusta beans. The Robusta varieties do have higher levels of caffeine. They also contain more mycotoxins. So mold is also less apt to grow at higher elevations. So purchasing coffee that has been harvested in the mountains is a great way to decrease the amount of mycotoxins in the coffee. Avoid decaf coffee, mainly because of the process that it goes through in order to make it decaf. A lot of times you're getting a lot of chemicals in that decaf coffee, but there are some companies that do make a decaf where it's they use a certain process that you can consume that without the toxins. Another one was choose your coffee steam. So steam is an agent that can help break down toxins. So ordering something like Americano or cappuccino, which is interesting. I have to say, I don't really know the difference between either one of them, but it does sound good. And then somebody mentioned they struggle with acid reflux, and something that I do often with my coffee, and I read about probably a few years ago, was adding some salt to your coffee. Somehow it neutralizes the acid, and so it leads to less reflux when you're drinking coffee. There you can also buy low acid coffee. I believe 7 Weeks does sell a low acid coffee, and so that will help with reflux as well. So just wanted to share a few things that we can personally do to make sure that we're getting the coffee that's not going to cause us any extra issues.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, a little trivia to round it out is, we as Americans, we owe a lot to the Boston Tea Party back in 1773. When all that tea was dumped into Boston Harbor, many Americans, we would have been, from the English stock having come on over, but which would be tea drinkers. But many Americans at that point switched from drinking tea due to the Boston Tea Party to drinking coffee as a patriotic statement. And so I guess that kind of caught on. Also, really, coffee is something that it seems to have been originated in the East or the Middle East. And so it was looked at with suspicion in Europe, and even many Catholics would have viewed this as there's things online even saying that it was initially called the bitter invention of Satan. So that's pretty harsh, but I guess that was because they saw it as coming from those of Islam, the Muslims, and so they were very suspicious. However, it says after Pope Clement VIII tasted and endorsed it in the late 16th century, it gained acceptance and popularity and sort of took off from there. So that's kind of interesting how that all works. And finally, the Finns, they drink the highest coffee consumption per capita in the world. So Finland, the average Finn drinks about 26 pounds of coffee each year. So I'm not sure really what I would clock in at, but 26 pounds seems like a lot. Becky, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sure we could calculate it up and see how much coffee you're actually drinking, because it actually goes fast. If you, I will look at the coffee bin and I'll say, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're out already. And it goes fast. It goes quick, especially if you're drinking every morning. So yeah, that's interesting. I also want to just offer some alternatives to coffee. So coffee's not your thing. You don't like it, or it doesn't make you feel good no matter what you try. There's always tea. There's the black and the green tea, which are good for you, high in antioxidants. And then there's herbal tea, which is really good for you. There's matcha, which is a type of tea, the bright green stuff. It's really good. Yerba mate, which is another tea that is higher in caffeine, and it has some good minerals and vitamins in it. And then the mushroom coffee, which is all the rage lately. I've not tried it, but I heard it's pretty good. And then just hot water with lemon. That's great for your liver. It's great for your body, and you're still getting the warm liquid that people like. So just a few things. Oh, and hot chocolate. I can't ever say anything without hot chocolate. You would just want a nice, yummy drink. You can go for hot chocolate.
Right. And we can enjoy these good things, again, temperately, and still, do our best not to be attached. If there's a day where you can't have it for some reason, to offer that, right? And not be like upset about it, right? So we want to make sure that we're living right in that way as well. God bless you all.